This video is about the length of design reports. It corresponds to section 7.3 of the Applied Analog Electronics textbooks. The most common question that students ask about design reports is, how long should it be? Unfortunately, there isn't a good answer to that question. We're not doing newspaper column writing, where you might be given a target 27 column inches, and you can't be an inch under or an inch over because then it won't fit. That's not the sort of writing we're doing. What we're doing is summarized by the 4 C's that we had in a previous video. You're trying to be both concise and complete. And the trouble is those aren't compatible goals. The more concise you are, the harder it is to be complete. The more complete you are, the harder it is to be concise. And like many engineering problems, there isn't a single optimal solution. There are many different solutions with different trade-offs. And so there isn't a good answer to how long should it be. You should put everything in that you need to, and you should keep it as short as you can. Now, there are 2 different ways that you can fail at this. And that is, you can be way too short by leaving out way too much information. You just don't tell me what your design is, you don't tell me about your design choices, you don't show me the finished design. The report's too short. It doesn't have the information that I need in it. And the other way you can fail is you can throw in all kinds of junk. You can put in all kinds of stuff that's got nothing really to do with the design that's being discussed and the design choices that were made. There's a tendency for students actually to fail more in this direction of saying, I'll just dump all my notes, everything that I ever thought about on the subject, and everything that might possibly be relevant because I might get points for putting in something and I won't get points for putting in too much. Wrong. If you put in too much, you can lose points. Because I'm not judging looking for there's this point, there's this point, there's this point. Gee, they got those 6 points, they get their 6 points. I'm looking for good, clear writing that says what it needs to say and doesn't say anything else. And so shotgun approaches where you try and toss in everything end up failing because they fail on the goal of being concise. Don't toss in junk. Make every sentence count. And make the sentences count by making them clear and meaningful. Don't use bad academic writing as a model. You don't want long, passive sentences with vague, inflated diction and complex sentence structures. Keep it clear and to the point. And you're not writing an SAT essay. The SAT essays were traditionally judged by, the longer they are, the longer the sentences, the bigger the words, the better it was, even if the content was complete garbage. That's not what we want. We want good content. We want that content to be clear, and we don't want it to be hidden inside piles of nonsense, junk. So there's no minimum requirement. There's no maximum requirement. You could write a 2-page report if you can get everything in. You could write a 50-page report if it really takes that long to say everything you have to say. Very rarely are those extremes the optimum for the design. Most often, you're going to be writing a report that takes some time to get everything in. And so really short reports are unlikely to be complete enough. Really long ones are likely to have a lot of repetition and irrelevant material. So they're likely to be not concise enough. Somewhere in the middle, and it varies a lot where in the middle is correct, you're going to get something where it's got the proper balance. And it takes practice to find that proper balance. To get there, think about your audience. They're the easiest audience, the one you should have been thinking about, as described in the previous video, is students like yourself who are a little bit behind, who are about to do the assignment that you've just done. So what do they need to know in order to do this assignment? What would they need in order to modify what you've done, understand it well enough that they could redo it in a slightly different way? That's what needs to be in the report. And that's really what you should be thinking of when you're trying to think how long does the report need to be, is what do I need to say? What does, even more important, what does the reader need to read? What do they need to hear? Because it's not about just, I've got all this information, dump it. It's, what does the reader need? What is it that they are trying to get out of this report? Is that there? And is it there in a clear enough way that they can find it and read it? Don't put the same thing in 3 or 4 times. Reader doesn't need that. They need to be able to find it and find it once. They don't want to say, oh, over here it said this, and over here it said this, and over here it said this. Which one's the right one? If it's in there once, they don't have this sort of confusion about its slight differences between being said different ways in different places. Say things once and say them clearly. Keep your sentences fairly short and to the point. Direct, clear sentences are what you're looking for, so that even if somebody is not a native reader of English, can read and understand your report without having to go, oh, well, there's this really complicated thing and I'm not sure if it's saying that it is or it isn't this thing. Keep it clear. And don't keep changing your words. There's a tendency for students to have been taught to use synonyms, to say, oh, well, one time I called it an amplifier, and the next time I'll call it an amp, and then I'll call it the third stage, and then I'll try to keep the language that you use consistent. So once you've decided I'm going to call this thing the sensor, it's always the sensor. It's not the sensing element one time and the sensor another time, because when you use subtly different names for things, the reader assumes you're talking about subtly different things. And so if you use sensor and sensing element, they want to know, well, what's the difference between it? Why is it this one here and what's this one here? What's the difference? If you meant the same thing, use the same word. Okay. Finding the right level of detail, finding the right vocabulary to use, it's not easy. And that's why we're going to be doing a lot of report writing in this thing, so you get practice at doing this. The first ones you get back, you'll probably get a lot of feedback on them. And it'll be negative feedback. It'll say, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. And that'll be disheartening. But if you correct those things, if you read them carefully and correct them, then in your next report, you will have a much better report with other things that need to be corrected. You'll continually be getting, in this class, correction on your writing, because it's one of the biggest things that you can gain from a class like this is improved writing skills. It's one of the things engineers need most, and one of the things they get least in most of their courses. So we're going to be pushing it quite a bit here. And don't ask, how long does it need to be? Ask, who am I writing this for? What do they need to know? Those are the questions that'll let you find the right balance between being complete and being concise.